I had a question about the practice problems for Chapter 5, Question 3. And here, let's just talk it through. And I'm going to draw some indifference curves here in a moment. Notice that, we've got point F, we've got point E and point G, and notice that at F, Angela both has less free time and less grain than at E, and has the same amount of free time but less grain than G. So F is dominated. She's never going to prefer F to either E or G. However, it's a little bit ambiguous whether she prefers G or E. It sort of depends on what kind of person she is. So by sketching Angela's indifference curves, work out what you can say about her preferences between E, F, and G, and how this depends on the slope of the curves. So let's do that part. That's a little more interesting than the other part. So I'm going to use blue to show Angela's indifference curve if she's someone that really isn't willing to give up much grain in exchange for more free time. And that would be somebody that had really flat indifference curves. And if that's the type of person she is, notice that G is on a higher indifference curve than E. This would be maybe, I don't know, your type A person. They're really interested in getting materially ahead. They're working all the time. They'd be working at home. And yeah, if I get more grain by working more at the office, I will do that rather than kicking back and enjoying more free time. Notice that indifference curve, this lower indifference curve would be consistent with those preferences, and it would be lower. I1 is higher than I2. All right, but let's think of laid back, relaxed Angela. And Angela here really values her free time. And, you know, she doesn't need much material good, doesn't need much grain. She gets by on less food. In that case, she'd be willing to give up a relatively large amount of grain for one more hour of free time. And in that case, her indifference curves would be really steep. And in that case, we'll call this I1 and this one I2. In that case, E would be preferred. So it really depends on whether Angela's the type of person that really would give up a lot of grain for one more hour of free time. That's this green set of indifference curves. That's for a person that likes free time relatively more than they like more material, in this case in grain. On the other hand, if Angela would rather not give up a lot of material well-being for one more hour of free time, remember that the slope of the indifference curve is the marginal rate of substitution. It's how much of the good on the y-axis the person would be willing to give up for one more unit of the good on the x-axis. So really flat means Angela would not be willing to give up but a little grain for one more hour of free time. So again, depends on the slopes of the curves. Really steep indifference curves, E is preferred. Really flat indifference curves, G is preferred.